Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Living Inspired with Autism. This is the podcast for parents who are raising extraordinary autistic children and who want to feel more supported, more emotionally steady, and more in charge of their own lives. I'm your host, Antoinette, and I am a life coach for parents of autistic kids. All right, now before we dive in, some of you may have noticed that I have completely disappeared off Facebook. And not through my actions, but Facebook sent me an email a week or so ago saying you no longer have access to your Facebook page. So we are not exactly what's going on. It seems to be happening across the board with other coaches and other people as well. We're trying to sort it out, but if we don't get it sorted out, we are also working on a community, but I will let you know further to that. But you can still find me. My website is still around. It's lliautism.net. You can contact me there. I'm still also on Instagram, and also all my little videos are on YouTube. All right. Okay, so today I want to talk about two very small words that can create a surprisingly big shift in the way that you experience life. And those words are, so what? So what? So what? Try it out. It actually feels pretty good to say. Now, before you think that it sounds dismissive or uncaring, just hear me out. I'm not suggesting that our lives, our children's struggles, the meltdown, school issues, relationship, financial issues, or problems don't matter. I'm suggesting that we become very interested in what we make those things mean. Now, the circumstance I told you is one thing. That's all the facts around something. The story that your brain creates around it is often something else entirely. And that's where the question, so what, becomes incredibly useful. Our brains are constantly filtering information. It's impossible to notice every single little detail and facial expression around us every minute of the day. So the brain decides what matters and then notice what it has been trained to notice. So I don't know if you remember as kids playing spot the W bug or spot the red car and calling it out, and whoever had spotted the most cars, they were the person who won. Well, this is a bit like that. And as parents of autistic children, this is particularly important because our brains can become exceptionally well trained to look for problems. We notice if there's a change in tone or pacing or hand movements, or whether people are staring, whether the teacher has a look, or whether the school is calling at an unusual time. Now, that awareness can be useful. We know our children well, and noticing cues can actually help us support them. But then another layer can creep in. We don't just notice what's happening, we start assigning meaning to it. So last week we were talking about the school phone again. So let's carry on with that. The school phones, and your brain doesn't just think, oh, the school is phoning. It's going like, what the hell now? What's happened? Has something happened? What has he done? I just don't know what the hell's going on. They're not coping with him. This isn't going to get better. Now, do you see how quickly that happened? But think about it. All that happened was that the phone rang. Everything after that was a story. And this is where I want you to practice saying, so what? The school called. So what? What am I making that mean? Perhaps your child is having a hard day and there is behavior and you do need to connect them. I'm not pretending that those things are easy or won't still be there, but what are you making them mean about your child, about you, or even about the future? Let's take behavior, for example. Your kiddo has a meltdown in the shop or at the movies or wherever, and they're screaming, maybe there's some hitting, throwing things, maybe they're dropping to the floor, and people are looking. And the fact is simply, my child had a meltdown in the shop. But then the brain gets involved. The psych says, this is humiliating. Everyone thinks that I can't control my child. We should never have come. I should have known better. Why can't I just go shopping like other families? I can't take him or her anywhere. My life is like really limited. Now I want you to ask, so what? My child had a meltdown in the shop. So what? What am I making that mean? Now that doesn't mean that you enjoy the meltdown or you stand by while tins of baked beans are flying down aisle 4. It means you just separate the practical problem from the emotional story. The practical problem is maybe my child is overwhelmed and needs a bit of support. The story is, I'm a terrible mother and we can never leave the house again. Those are very different things. One of them requires a response. The other requires inquiry. And when we confuse the two, we create so much extra suffering for ourselves. Now, the same applies when our kids do something that other people find unacceptable. Maybe your kiddo makes a loud noise in the restaurant, or touches something that they shouldn't, or pushes another child, or strips down to their bathing suit, or repeats a behavior that you have perhaps been working on for months. And your brain immediately races to shame. And sometimes, yes, you may need to intervene, obviously, and apologize and explain or make something safe. But I want you to notice the difference between doing that from grounded responsibility and doing it from shame. When you say, so what? It just creates that tiny little pause. They stared at us. So what? What am I making this staring mean? Someone made a comment. So freaking what? What am I making that comment mean about me? My child struggled today. So what? What am I making one difficult day mean about my child's future? This is all about becoming free. We do this with milestones as well. Perhaps your child isn't speaking or the toileting is taking much longer than you expected. Maybe they're feeding challenges. Maybe they're not reading yet. Other children their age are doing things that your child aren't doing. And the circumstance may be something like, my child is just not doing this skill right now. But then the mind adds, they will never be able to do it. I should have done more. I chose the wrong thing. What will adulthood look like? And suddenly you are no longer with your child today. You are mentally living 20 years in the future, frightened by a life that has not happened yet. So what? He's not doing the skill yet. So what? So what am I making it mean? I think this question can be very compassionate when we use it well. It helps us to distinguish a fact from a prediction. We see our child as they are today, and we give our brain another assignment. Instead of constantly looking for evidence that things are going badly, we can deliberately look for evidence of growth. He's doing something, but he's having a meltdown, but it is 5 minutes less than yesterday. Maybe the big milestone hasn't happened yet, but there are tiny little shifts. Maybe they are saying hello more often. Maybe they can handle being at the grocery store for a few minutes longer. Maybe they are trying a new food. Or maybe they have a calmer transition, a new gesture, or a faster recovery after a difficult moment. These things matter too. Excuse me. Your brain will become very good at finding whatever you keep asking it to find. So if the question is, what's wrong? It's going to produce a long list. Your brain's going to come up with everything that's wrong. But if your question is, what's changing or what's different? It's going to start showing you things that you perhaps have been missing all along. And of course, this idea is not only about autism. It is really useful for ordinary life as well. Maybe you sent a message to a friend of yours and that person hasn't replied. So what? What are you making that mean? Are you making it mean that they're upset with you, that they don't like you, that you said something wrong? Or could it just simply mean that they haven't replied yet? You arrive late. Are you making that mean that your whole day is ruined? You forgot something at the grocery store. Does that mean that you're hopeless and disorganized? Or does it mean you just forgot the milk? Or maybe your partner's quiet. Are you making it mean there's something wrong with the relationship or they're mad at you for something? Someone doesn't invite you to something. What are you making it mean? Are you making it mean that you are unwanted? This question shows you the layer between what actually happened and what you decided it means. And we often repeat the same meaning across completely different situations. For one person, everything becomes evidence that nothing is going well. The school calls, I'm failing. My house is messy, I'm failing. My child has a meltdown, I'm failing. I forgot an appointment, I'm failing. My partner is frustrated, I'm failing. Different circumstances, but the same conclusion. Now, for someone else, the theme may be I don't have any control, or people are judging me, or I can't handle this. The so what question helps us find the theme and decide whether we want to keep it. Now, this is where the work becomes so powerful. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? What is also true? What meaning would help me respond with more strength? Maybe the school called, and instead of saying, oh boy, here we go again, you try, my kid had a difficult day, and we can work out what happened. Maybe after a meltdown, instead of saying, oh, now we can't go anywhere, you try, okay, that was hard. We learned something about how much they can tolerate right now. Maybe when someone stares, instead of thinking that they think that I'm a bad mother, maybe it's just I have no idea what they're thinking and I don't need to manage their opinion of me. Maybe your kiddo is struggling with a skill, and instead of saying that they'll never get there, perhaps you try, he's just not there today. And that's all I actually know right now. These thoughts are not pretending that everything is wonderful. They simply stop adding unnecessary pain. Now, I also want to say something else here. So what is not, not a tool for dismissing your emotions. If something is hurting, it hurts. If you're disappointed or angry or sad or exhausted, you are allowed to feel all of it. This isn't about telling yourself, so what, get over it? Absolutely not. It's more like asking, okay, so this happened. What am I making it mean? You can feel sad without deciding that your whole future has gone to hell in a handbasket, or be angry with the school without deciding that everyone is against you, or be exhausted without deciding that you're not capable. That is emotional maturity. And I think for parents of autistic children, this is such important work because we deal with so much already. We don't need to add a 10-page mental story every time we have a difficult moment. We can deal with what is right in front of us right now. And sometimes that begins with 2 words. So what? So what am I making this mean? What is a fact? What is my story? What do I actually know? What else could be true? What do I want to believe right now? And then from that place, what do I want to do next? That is where your power is. Not controlling your child or the school or strangers or the future, but in becoming deliberate about the meaning that you give to what happens. If you're realizing right now that you do this all the time, you take a behavior or one phone call or one hard day and you make it mean something enormous about yourself or your family or your child, that is exactly the kind of work we do together in coaching. So we look at what's happening in your life right now. We uncover the stories, making an already challenging situation even worse. And we help you move forward with calm, authority, and trust in yourself. Because sometimes we are so close to our own thinking that we actually can't see what is a circumstance and what is a story anymore. And that is where having someone alongside you can be incredibly powerful. So if this sounds like the support that you need, book a consultation with me. The link will be below in the show notes. All right, so before we finish, I just want to give you, of course, a simple little practice to try this week. Whenever you notice yourself spinning, just stop down, write down the circumstance in one sentence or put a line down the middle of the page. Put what actually happened, the fact, on the left-hand side, and then all your thoughts and what you think on the right-hand side. Keep it neutral. The school called, my child screamed in a restaurant, she did not eat dinner, my friend didn't reply. All on the left-hand side, those are the facts. Then ask yourself, so what? What am I making this mean? And then let your brain answer. Don't censor it. You're going to write that on the right-hand side. And you may actually be quite surprised at how dramatic your brain can be. And then, after you've done that, you ask one final question. What do I want to make this mean? Not what should I make it mean? What meaning serves me? And maybe the answer is going to be simply, this was a hard day. We are learning. I can handle this. I don't know what's going to happen next. My kiddo's allowed to have a hard time. I'm allowed to have a hard time. We can make another decision tomorrow. Sometimes freedom is simply removing meaning that was never required in the first place. So the next time your brain takes one moment and starts building an entire future or story around it, ask yourself, so what? And what am I making this mean? And what do I want to make it mean instead? All right, my friends, that is what I have for you. I will speak to you next week. Bye for now.